Hello.
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 What were you going to say? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to I'll call it the Common Censored live stream. Our podcast is called Common Censored. This is the live stream.
It's true. We've never actually named it.
We've never named this. We just do it. It's welcome to the thing we do. Thank you guys for coming as you filter in, I hope. Yeah, welcome. So, for those of you who are regulars, you know that each week we do this. We go over the weekly news, the redacted angle-ish, but also we all the donations go to a cause. So last week it was Symbiosis in Portland, Oregon. Before that, we did the Julian Assange Legal Fund, which you guys gave an incredible amount of money to. I think over $1,300 to Julian Assange's legal fund. Truly amazing. And this week, and this will be our first story. Well, no, it'll be our second story, but I'll tell you what it's for. This week, it's for Steven Donziger, the lawyer who won an incredible battle against Chevron and Texaco, which Chevron owns. And now he's being persecuted. He's on house arrest in New York City. And I will give you all the details of that. Anyway, every super chat proceed goes to the Steven Donziger Legal Fund.
And in order to donate, you have to be on YouTube.
Yes, so please come on over to YouTube.
YouTube.com/momentofclarity. And then when you go to type in a comment, there's a little $sign there, and that's when you can put your donation in there. So tell us
you just got a nice job on Jimmy Dore.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Eleanor
fun.
was on Jimmy Dore this week.
I believe I can now say that Howie Hawkins opened for me.
There you go.
Just saying.
The presidential candidate opened for you. Okay, well, I was going to say the first topic since it's all over the news.
So did you want to tell him about Donziger, or did you want to kind of...
I want to get into Donziger.
Okay.
I want to get into Donziger in a minute. I wanted to just, I don't know, talk for a second about the elections, about everybody's in line for hours. Voting is important. I just wanted to get all that out there. We have a corporate fake two-party system that's actually one party.
You wanted to cover all of them?
But there's a lot of... No, this is it. I'm doing it.
Oh.
We're not done.
Sorry.
But voting's still important because there's a lot of things on the ballot other than the fucking two-party sham. There's a lot of things going on here in D.C. There is a ballot initiative to basically decriminalize growing psilocybin, growing marijuana, right? Or is that already? You can have
that's already, yeah.
Okay, psilocybin.
It's
so
decriminalizing psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah, so there are important things, which of course we should do because our drug laws are fucking horrific and draconian and goddamn racist. And there's about 14 other terms, none of which are good, that describe our drug war. So that's why voting is important. Everybody's been standing in line for hours and hours. Thank you for doing it. Here in D.C., we just dropped it off in one of those drop-off boxes.
Which might go get burned. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently in California, one part of California, Republicans were making fake ones so they could go burn them, which incredibly illegal. So that's bold. You got to admit, that's a bold tactic. I think it can land you in jail for years. But go bold or go home, right?
Oh, and then in Virginia, this happened. But I think they then finally petitioned to get it unfucked. But they lost electricity right as the polling places were closing. What was that story? Do you remember that?
I didn't see that story.
Oh, hold on. You carry on while I look that up.
I've done everything I had to do. There's no carrying on to be had.
I will sit here in silence awkwardly while you look this up.
I do want to take a minute to say, please share this with your platforms. We're going to be here for at least an hour, so please let people know to come hang out with us. We're going to go through a bunch of important news stories, many of which are not being covered or being undercovered. Is that a word?
Undercovered.
Thank you. The first donation, €5. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Vegan Vero.
Thank you, Vegan Vero.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was rad to be on Jimmy's show. Thank you, Lee, for setting that up.
No problem. Yes, me and Jimmy go back. Many people don't know this. Me and Jimmy Dore go back years and years. We performed stand-up together. We did the YouTube shows together years ago.
You go back to the days when you could perform on stages.
I know. Back when human beings were allowed to get together. should I? Please click subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Should I go through the Donziger story?
Yes, because I'm not. So a severed cable. Now I found it. A severed cable shut down Virginia's online voter registration system on the last day that people were allowed to register. Thank you, Kevin, so much.
Thank you, Kevin. $20.
That. So yeah, this and as I understand it, they have made enough noise to basically force Virginia to actually allow people to still register, even though this happened. But basically, like, this is the kind of shit where you're like, oh, how convenient. Legit, an accidentally severed cable, a fiber optic cable, shut down Virginia's online voter registration system on the last day that you are allowed to register to vote.
The registration, yes. Now I remember.
So how convenient, right? Oops, I'm sorry.
I mean, they're pulling out all the stops to try and stop this election from going forward. In this, I did a whole. If you guys want to learn more about this, I did a whole video on it on this same YouTube channel. It was my last video, so feel free to go watch that. But basically, right now we're seeing the Republicans trying to stop people from voting. Now, that is not to defend the Democrats. The Democrats are a fucking shit show, and they rigged their own primary, okay? So they are involved in their own kind of election fraud. But right now, what we're seeing now is the Democrats do better if people vote. The Republicans do better if people don't vote. So the Republicans are doing all they can to stop people from voting. They're setting up fake boxes, as they did in California, where people drop off their ballot and they burn them. They're cutting cables, as they did in Virginia.
And Rob, to answer your question, I believe the cable is somehow related to Epstein. I believe they used the same method of suicide. So yeah, it's super, it's just a coincidence. And accidents happen, right? These things happen.
So I will go from, if this is okay with you, I will go from this election to, let's talk for a second about the Bolivian election.
Yes, real quick, if you're just joining us, please hit a like, share this. And we are raising money tonight for the, I always want to say Danzig, but that's the band. So what's it going to be? Donziger?
Steven Donziger.
Steven Donziger. And Lee's going to tell that story in a bit. But if you are on Facebook, you can donate via youtube.com/memberclarity. Okay, now you can go.
Anyway, please share this, everybody. But funny enough, while the U.S. is doing our best to, rig our election, stop people from voting in our election, Bolivia is doing the same, actually, today. Now, I do not have the Bolivian results. I believe they are not giving them out yet, or not, I believe they're still in the counting process. But down in Bolivia, a U.S.-backed, basically fascist coup happened, I think it was about a year ago. Maybe less, but and it was Eleanor's typing, so you're gonna have a bit of vibration going for a moment. But these are good vibrations. Hit it. So U.S.-backed fascist coup down in Bolivia, and they kicked Evo Morales, the leftist leader, out of the country, the first indigenous leader, I believe, of all South America, but maybe it was just first indigenous of Bolivia. But either way, incredible. The indigenous people are a greater percentage in that country. So their party, MAS, which thank you, Jim, for the donation, $10, which stands for Movement Towards Socialism. Led by Evo Morales, but he was basically kicked out by the military, supported by the U.S. They made him flee. He is now outside the country, not allowed to run in the election. So now there is someone running on his party, MAS. And the fascist government wants to do everything they can to stop the election. They kept postponing it because they know that if it goes through unfettered, free and fair election, then they will lose. And the U.S.-backed puppet will lose. And so they are doing everything they can to try and stop people from voting. Yesterday, they had a massive show of the military in a lot of cities where just military armaments and soldiers walking down the street, just basically trying to scare people, saying, stay the fuck home, don't vote. So it's slightly different there than here, but there are some similarities in like they just don't want people to vote. Because when people vote, people tend to unite. They tend to actually care about the what's happening to their fellow humans in that country, and they tend to vote towards those things. Such as in the Democratic primary, Bernie Sanders would have won if it hadn't been, fucked in so many ways, stopping people from voting. So, long-standing issue in this country and many others. It's called capitalism has a democracy problem. Which I got that phrase from economist Richard Wolff, and I think it's very appropriate. Wow, yes. Thank you, Jonas, for the donation, which I'm guessing is roughly $20.
I don't see it. Oh, Jonas. Tack så mycket. That's Swedish crowns, 200 Swedish crowns. And you're right, it's roughly, well, yeah.
I'm going by the color there.
What is that?
I'm racist. No, orange is.
That's right. It color codes. Okay. Well, yeah. Anywho, it reminds me of speaking of elections in South America. I was talking to a Venezuelan friend who was he was comparing and contrasting the Venezuelan elections with the American ones, and the Venezuelan elections will happen this year again on my birthday, actually, December 6th. My friend Leo was talking about how legitimate they are compared to the U.S. ones, even though the U.S. makes a point of course, always talking. Back in 2018, they said that the Venezuelan election was illegitimate, even though there were election. What do you call them? Election, not viewers, but
observers.
Observers, thank you. There were election observers from all over the world that came to check it out, which would be fascinating if that happened here. Like election observers, wait, are you not going to count that? Wait, I don't understand. Why are there people in this fucking line? What's going on? I don't understand. Why do you cut that cable? Like, it would be absolutely fucking hilarious if that happened here. But so there were election observers in Venezuela. And the takeaway from all of them was basically, wow, this is a really, really powerful system. You vote, and then you vote electronically, and then there's a printout, and you compare that printout to what you actually voted for, and then that printout is put in a box, and those printouts are then later counted, and those are compared to the digital results to make sure that there's no disparity there. There's a lot of there's auditing that happens throughout the day and at the end of the day. So the way that it's set up is so incredibly democratic compared to ours, where it's like, why would you want? I don't need to count that. Why would I need to count that? So it's really fascinating to see the differences, and of course this is happening at a time when the U.S. continues to very, very strongly threaten Venezuela, not just through the economic warfare that we've been waging for a long time, but attempts to ramp that up throughout the year that we've seen so far. So yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Levon. Let's move on to Steven Donziger.
Yes, this is if you're just joining us,
incredible
this is where
story.
The money is going tonight. Is Donziger?
Yes, Donziger's legal defense fund. So some of you might know this story. I've actually been talking about it. I did reports on it. I think before Redacted Tonight. Yeah, actually before Redacted Tonight. Thank you, Mackenzie. You're a fucking hero. I did it before Redacted Tonight. I did early reports on it in the first couple of years of Redacted Tonight. And Steven Donziger, before this ever happened, he was an environmental lawyer, all right? An environmental lawyer, no one knew his name, small-time environmental lawyer doing what he could to help. He goes and represents the indigenous in Ecuador for their suit against Chevron, which bought out Texaco. Now, Texaco decided that basically it was when they were exploiting the oil out of the Amazon in Ecuador that they could just take the oil out and whatever pollution, whatever toxic nastiness that they didn't use or that leaked or whatever, they would just leave it there. So they created thousands of these pools of toxic, awful, thank you, Jonas, crude, just gross shit in the middle of the rainforest. Now the indigenous there, they get their water from that. Some kids would wander upon it and actually touch it and stuff. And anyway, it ultimately gave a ton of them cancer, killed many of them, obviously killed the wildlife, destroyed their way of life in many areas. Just, it is viewed as one of the largest environmental catastrophes that humankind has known. And he went and sued Chevron for this, for their part in this, for allowing this to go on, basically saying, we want to clean up the Amazon. You owe it to us. Thank you, Elise. And so he went and did that. And here's the thing is, people who represent the indigenous or represent environmental concerns almost never win. Almost fucking never. But they eked it out. They somehow succeeded and won in Ecuador to the tune of billions of dollars. Chevron owed billions of dollars, not just to the indigenous people, but to help clean up the disaster going on there. It continues. It's nonstop, because you leave oil in a place, it just continues to destroy it. And so what does Chevron do? Well, their decision is to, A, leave Ecuador completely and never pay. So they haven't paid a dime of what they owe. And then go after Donziger, the lawyer, for doing this. Because their goal is just to delegitimize him, tear him apart, make his life hell for two reasons. One, because and by the way, the verdict in Ecuador was upheld in many other countries, so it's not just Ecuador. But one, and the biggest reason is just to set an example. If you are an environmental lawyer and you try and go after these big corporations, we will destroy your fucking life. Like, that is their main purpose. And then secondarily, that it can maybe help them in a further appeal if they've delegitimized the lawyer for the initial case. So the next step is, it can't just be Chevron, right? They need a corrupt judge to allow such a thing to go on, to allow a corporation to destroy a lawyer's life for winning a case. I mean, it's bizarre. And so they found one, and I believe his name's Judge Kaplan. I'm not certain, but I think that's right. They found one in New York City who's known for this. He's in bed with corporations. I think he's directly maybe in bed with Chevron, but either way, in bed with corporations. Well, always sides with corporations. And so he just rules against Donziger every step of the way, in every way possible, and then demands that Donziger turn over his laptop and all this stuff, which is unheard of. Lawyers are not, they have lawyer-client privilege. You're not required to turn over your laptop. It's completely unheard of. Donziger says, I won't turn over my laptop unless an appeals court finds that I need to. And simply for doing that, the judge has now put him in basically solitary confinement in his own home arrest. But house arrest, but he's in a New York apartment. So it's the size of 4 square feet. It's honestly, you spread your arms, those are the two sides. So he's basically in solitary confinement in New York City. He's been there for, I think it's 14 months. It's over a year so far. He has an electronic bracelet on his ankle. It used to be the only time he could leave the apartment was to take his kid to school. But now with the pandemic, she doesn't go to school, so he can't leave even for that. So he can't leave for anything. And anyway, he needs continued support. He needs continued legal funds, because obviously they're trying to drain his accounts. Right. They just want him to be broke so that
they want to break it.
Well, they want to break him to set an example, but they also want him to have no more money to hire people to defend him. So this is ongoing. It's been going for years. Like I said, I've been covering it for years. And anyway, he needs our help. And he is, I'd say, the first or second, most famous, probably maybe third most famous political prisoner in the U.S. right now. You have Mumia, you have a couple, but this is one of the biggest ones, and this is the only one who's a lawyer. And it sets a massive example for, listen, do not come after corporations. Because our system of law, and maybe you can talk more, speak to this, is our system of law is set up for the corporations against human beings.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I feel like I have to sneeze.
I'm sure everyone would enjoy a good sneeze at this point. We want to take a sneeze break.
It's really annoying, when you have to sneeze and you can't. Anyway, so I think this is this story just is one of those moments where I'm reminded of that, and I think I've mentioned it on the live stream before, but the Mussolini quote that a better name for fascism would perhaps be corporatism. And if you look at the way that our government is structured, of course, a lot of you watching this already recognize this, but it's not that our government is above the market or above the decisions made on Wall Street. It's Wall Street and then the government. Wall Street is the government, and then they have like politicians underneath them who they tell where to go and what to do and all of that shit. And this is just one of those prime perfect examples that really shows this. It really speaks to the corruption of the courts and why the tool and the tactic of using the courts is really tenuous at best. Like you have moments where a judge can vote for environmental destruction, and the next day that they can vote for the people trying to stop environmental destruction. It's very like touch and go. Although in the U.S. predominantly, of course, judges and things like that will predominantly vote for environmental destruction and, corporate malfeasance and all this other shit. And it's why, it's why it's so important that we not just look at the courts as one tactic that we use, but that we have a lot of tactics and we don't rely on the outcomes in the courts because we really can't rely on them to deliver justice. It's not why they were founded. It's not why they exist, and it's certainly not something they're interested in. We see this happening particularly with protests. Since even before DAPL, but really that kind of amplified this push to demonize and to criminalize protests. So you had these kind of anti-protest bills, anti-First Amendment bills that were popping up all over the country. And I can't remember exactly how many of them exist on the books as opposed to were put up for vote. But it's more than a handful of states and local areas. Thank you, Bia.
Thank you, Bia.
It's more than a handful of places that have this on the books where it is literally illegal to protest by what's called critical infrastructure, which is, of course, vague on purpose because it means that they can say that something's critical infrastructure after the fact.
Right.
So, for instance, there might still be a warrant out for my arrest in Louisiana because I was on... It doesn't matter. It's not gonna... I'm not releasing anything that isn't. Because of there was a fight for against the Bayou Bridge pipeline, and there was contested land that was actually private property, but the pipeline had said that this is part of our easement, which is what the language they use for the space where they're going to build the pipeline. And it was still private property that had been opened and given an invitation for protesters and water protectors to be on this private land. And this is, now land that the pipeline company is saying, oh, this is ours now. So if you're here, that means that you're interfering with this critical infrastructure, which means that you, under these new laws can be prosecuted to an extent that is far above just like trespassing.
And it's just for being there. It's just, that's all you were. It was just there.
The thing is, there are already trespassing laws on the books, right? So this is why it makes it even more fucked up, because it's not just a simple matter of trespassing even anymore, even though it was still private property that didn't belong to the pipeline company, but whatever. So this is why that becomes an even more grotesque and ridiculous situation, is that there's already a law on the books that makes this illegal, but you are going to amplify that and make it more crude, make it more horrific, because you want to make an example of people that are trying to fight for a future, for a livable future, for sustainability. So yeah, that's an example, but these laws are peppered around the United States and to criminalize,
And not only can they call anything critical infrastructure, this pipeline's critical infrastructure, this, this fracking area is critical infrastructure. Whatever it is, they can call it critical infrastructure. They're doing that with, they're trying to say that with, voting machines as well, even though we have these crap-tastic, fucking meaningless voting machines. But still, and it's like, are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, you know what is critical infrastructure? Fucking
Forests?
schools are critical infrastructure. Forests are critical infrastructure. Rivers are critical infrastructure. The air we breathe is fucking critical infrastructure. You goddamn assholes. It's not your fucking pipeline so that you can make a goddamn $1 billion. And like I mean, the terminology is used to just corrupt your minds like a goddamn virus, like it's some sort of seed that people just get manipulated by. Oh, it's critical. Must be critical. I guess. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, they said it's critical. It's critical. I did it. Yeah, it's critical. They make billions of dollars. To them, that's what's critical.
Well, this kind of gets to the point of language, right? Like this, and if you look at the laws that are put on the books, it's oftentimes this kind of language, the right to work. Oh, well, we want to protect the right to work. Right? I mean, as Americans, we have a right to work. Yeah, well, the fucking reality of that is that it's your right to be oppressed by the corporate state, and you have no rights to basic labor laws or basic labor improvements, labor rights. You have no right to unions. You have no right to demand better wages or demand better working conditions. So yeah, right to work. Yeah, okay. And it's thank you.
Wow, $50. Thank you, Palmer.
Thank you, Jay Palmer.
Jay Palmer.
That makes me want an Arnold Palmer. That made me sound super white. I'm sorry.
Having a Palmer is what I used to call masturbating.
Oh, God. I thought that was Rosie Palm. You have a date with Rosie?
I hadn't heard that.
Really?
No.
That's what it was in North Carolina anyway.
I think it's called a date with Harry. You know
who's Harry?
The myth that you get hairy palms if you masturbate a lot. You didn't know that? Also, there's a myth that you go blind.
I've heard that one. Hairy palms? What is that all about? That might actually feel nice, though. Wait, no, maybe not. I don't know. I actually don't know what it feels like to have a dick, but that's a different story. Anyway.
Why did you reveal that? I said earlier, do not reveal our secrets.
Right. So, somebody was asking, they just joined us, who are we donating to? So if you could just repeat that.
Yes, just to run through real quick, Steven Donziger is a lawyer who prosecuted, and I think it's the largest ever successful environmental case, billions of dollars that Chevron was supposed to pay to the indigenous in Ecuador for destroying their lives, their livelihood. Over 1,000 people of that, indigenous, I don't know if it's a tribe or a group, but community have died of cancer. I mean, yeah, so... Anyway, he did this incredible thing, and now he's being punished for it. He's on solitary confinement in New York. Wow, $25. Thank you, Ida.
Good to see you. Glad you're here.
Yes, glad you're here, Ida.
Yes, so that's who we're raising money for. And where were we going? Do we have another story on deck? Speaking of,
I wrote some down, but I don't have
speaking of, thank you, Bia, again. No, don't go. Tip it back.
Let me do this.
No, I have a story.
Okay, but I still need to do this.
Okay.
Keep talking.
But now, okay.
It doesn't matter if you can see yourself.
Okay. But I can't see I don't need to see myself. I need to see the comments. So this just started recently. And this is happening in the South Salish Sea region, Washington.
Hold on. This is so important. Nicole just said her neighbors and her all love each other and look out for each other. The fuck?
Fuck yeah.
Where do you live?
What
country is that?
Sounds like y'all are building pods.
What country is that? I would love to see.
Thank you, another day.
A community care about each other and look out for each other.
Hey, we do that.
That sounds amazing. We do? Well, we don't even know our neighbors.
Not the immediate neighbors. They're assholes. The women next door. She's racist.
Right now she's watching this going, hey.
No, I doubt that. No, but this sounds like neighborhood pods, which is fucking cool. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, it's super important. I love how these like.
Oh, I didn't know Nick's in. You're hiding behind the comment. Nick's in Oregon.
Oh, awesome. Well, I hope you're safe.
Nick, I don't know why you have to call me out like that. I have not yet added up the donations from last week, so you're making me look dumb. But I believe it was in the $400 range that will be donated to Symbiosis.
Yes, and hope you and all of your community members are safe. Oh yes, so the story that I wanted to cover is happening right now in the the native forest, the old growth forest in the South Salish region. If you go on Instagram, you can check them out at, wow, thank you, Chaos Agent, appreciate it.
Whoa, $50.
They are at Chameleon Blockade. And they are protecting old growth forest in that area that is being threatened by logging, which is pretty fucking amazing. That, I mean, well, it's not, I guess it's not surprising, but it's again, it's amazing that in the midst not only of a pandemic, but in the midst of record forest fires in that region, they're like, you know what we need to do? We need to cut down more forests because we really just feel like there are too many trees. And the problem is clearly the trees.
My life has been so hampered by trees. It's like everywhere I want to walk, just fucking tree right there. I'm like, maybe I'll go hang out here. Boom, tree. And I'm like, who the fuck are you guys that you just get to own that spot forever? And they're like, not forever, just for a few hundred years. And I'm like, fuck you, man. And it's just like, and then I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. And then boom, another tree. They're following me. They're always there.
I would love to know where you're walking.
So just saying, we got to get them out of the way now. We got to show them who's boss. Trees have been running roughshod over our landscape for years.
Yes. So leaves.
Can you just act out everything I said? I would love that.
So and for those who might be in the region or might know people in the region, they are asking for assistance. Awesome, thank you, Gail. And they have forest defense tactics trainings. They've got climb trainings. They just had one of these today. I'm sure they'll have another one soon. But basically, they are working to protect these old growth trees. This is something that's happening a lot in the Pacific Northwest. I've covered the forest protection that's been happening on Rainbow Ridge, which is the northern part of California, just right by the border. And they've been protecting old growth trees there for quite some time, protecting them from logging interests. And so this is something that is really rife in the Pacific Northwest, again, at a time when there are record fucking forest fires. So it's really absurd that this is happening, but this is the structure of capitalism. This is the never-ending quest for profit, treating finite resources like fucking trees as if they're infinite, and treating infinite resources like ones and zeros on a screen as if they were finite. And so this is something that's super important that we support and that we uplift. So
thank you, Bev, and thank you, Nick.
Thank you. And are you?
He's just typing it.
I love that. That makes me so happy. Parrot character dancing inside a ball pit. What is a ball pit with a red bandana?
Like at McDonald's.
Oh,
a ball pit.
Oh,
what
my
are you?
God.
You're anti-American.
You know what?
She'd never heard of Mario Brothers.
No, and then okay, but I have to say, I'm the one who gave you this joke. So if you ever hear Lee stand up and you hear him say like the Mario Brothers, what's their fucking last name, or what are their first names? I came up with that joke because I'd never heard of the Mario Brothers because I wasn't allowed to play video games when I was a kid. And Lee was like, "Holy shit, you've never heard of the Mario Brothers?" And I was like, "Well, wait, they're Mario and Luigi. Their last name is Mario, so it's Mario and Luigi Mario. Are you fucking out of your mind?" And he had never thought of this.
Never occurred to me, but it never occurred to really anybody. But why are they named the Mario Brothers? But that, fine, point taken. Also, you never heard of the Mario Brothers.
Why do I need to?
Jesus.
And then when I asked you what the point of the game was, you couldn't fucking tell me.
You go down pipes and you fight toads. Things.
Wait, what the fuck do you have
You're
to do?
saving a princess down the plumber pipes.
Why the fuck is there
You've
a princess
got to jump
down the
on a
pipe?
turtle up and down 30 times to get an extra life. How confusing is that?
Very, very. Why are there pipes involved? And why are there
Because I think they're plumbers.
Turtles and frogs? Or did you say frogs? Or did I just make that up?
I don't think there were any frogs.
Why
I think
are
there
you
were
using toads?
Toads, and well, it was a toadstool, and then toadstool gets you a 1-up, and then
one up what?
Oh no, toadstool grows you. I don't know.
Grows you?
Yeah, you get big.
Actually,
you get big. Not like erect, like taller.
This game was for children? Oh my god. I just like to take this
Fun
moment.
fact.
If my mother is watching, thank you for not letting me play this absurd game.
Fun fact, and it's the last thing we'll say about the Mario Brothers. They I think it was Japanese maybe programmed the game initially, and making mouths move as animation was very tough because it's small and you're trying to make it fit with sentences and things. So they were like, well, let's cover the mouths. So they gave them big bushy mustache to cover up the mouths, so they wouldn't have to animate them talking. And so then they had this big mustache, and to them that looked Italian, and they thought that all Italians are plumbers. So they then made it a plumber game to fit with the mustache that were designed to cover up the mouths because they didn't want to animate the mouths.
Is that true?
Yeah. You think I make that up?
I don't know. I know nothing about the multiverse.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. I assume you are donating because of our important and informative Mario Brothers coverage. All right, where were you? I interrupted. Go ahead.
I don't know. Where was I? Oh, so yes, you can check out more about this blockade that's happening. It's at Chameleon Blockade on Instagram. So please do check them out. And I don't know, maybe we'll support them one of these. Maybe we'll support them on this show. Is this a show, live stream? But if you can just amplify what's going on there, because again, it's super important that we support and amplify these fights that are happening. And also important just to remember that like these things are happening. Like there are blockades happening down by the so-called border that are trying to stop the construction of border wall in the midst of a pandemic. There's continued fights on Diné and / Navajo land that they're trying to destroy some sacred land to the Navajo there as well in the midst of a pandemic. And again, this is happening when the Navajo areas have been the hardest hit by the pandemic with rates that are higher than states. Entire states. So it's important that we recognize and amplify these fights, because while we are in the midst of a pandemic and there's so much shit going on, it is important to recognize that other shit didn't stop. And if you look at corporate media, which I recommend that you only look at a little bit of and only just to see that it's a good idea that you don't, you'd think that like every other thing in the world just decided to like go on pause for the sake of the elections. But of course that's not true. Fights continue around the world. Efforts to build something, in this dying shadow of capitalism continue around the world. And the onward march of these fascist entities, whether that be imperialism or whether that be imperialism here at home, colonialism here at home. So it's important that we recognize that these efforts and actions are happening, and that if we can't support in a direct way, that we amplify them so that people understand that these are ongoing.
Damn straight. And these are the fucking heroes. I mean, honestly, these are the people. These are the people I truly respect, and to me these are the celebrities. Like we're told in our culture to value the person that acted in that movie or some shit.
Thank you.
The real celebrities should be the people that put their livelihoods, their lives, their bodies on the line to fight against the destruction of our world, and it's incredible.
Yes, indeed. So now we're getting some comments about what the pipes are in Mario's Brothers, that they might actually be wormholes to other dimensions.
Oh, very well. They're very well likely. I mean, that's how far ahead of its time Mario Brothers was.
Or didn't you have a joke about how like all kids games just seem like they're just like a massive LSD trip?
Yes. Not
games, but like shows. Like what was that? There was some show that Gobbly-Z, Zoobly-Zod.
Oh, Zoobly-Zoo.
Zoobly-Zoo. Oh my God, have you ever seen it? It's fucking terrifying. I watched a video.
If you're if having trouble falling asleep and you want to
be awake for the rest of your life?
Be awake for the rest of your life and have nightmares at the same time, waking nightmares, and never be able to sleep again, watch simply the opening sequence of Zoobly-Zoo on YouTube. Now, I had totally forgotten this thing existed, but she was on the first couple of years of Redacted Night. Her name's Abby Feldman. She told me about it. She reminded me of Zoobly-Zoo, and it is the most horrifying thing that anyone's ever seen.
I had never seen it as a kid.
It's human actors with like fucking rat faces and parrot faces and shit, and clearly everyone on that show is a pedophile, and somehow this is supposed to be endearing to children, and it is horrifying. It goes up there with the Cats movie, the recent Cats movie,
Oh.
in terms of just horrific, like, why would anyone enjoy this? And not only why would anyone enjoy this, but how would kids ever have a normal existence afterwards? Anyway.
Well, I guess you certainly.
And with that said, thank you to whoever donated.
You must.
Oh, thank you, Jonas, again.
Yeah.
I have another topic we could move to, unless you noticed a topic on the comments there.
I know just people agreeing
just about the Mario pipes.
The Mario pipes and the Zoobly Zoo, and also Teletubbies, which is terrifying as well.
So luckily, I grew up before Teletubbies. So
Me
I'm not
too, but I
actually...
babysat when Teletubbies was a thing. Oh, and I was like, I don't feel that kids should watch this because this is horrifying. But
Is that because you didn't like the gay Teletubby? Are you homophobic?
There was a gay Teletubby?
Yeah, apparently the purple triangle means gay.
Okay, is this like some Illuminati shit or something?
I don't know.
Are Illuminati people gay? Is that...
I assume all Illuminatis are gay, yes. No, actually, I assume Illuminatis are not gay because gay people seem pretty nice. Illuminatis seem not cool.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, so I've got another topic we can move on to. We've definitely mentioned it before.
Wow, thank you, Nick. Oh, sorry, Christina. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh.
He said his partner is Christina.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I'll fill you in
Thank
later.
you, Nick and Christina.
I'll fill you in later.
You guys are awesome. You fucking rock. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of Steven Donziger, thank you. So this is from Black Agenda Report, but I'm going to take it a little farther than they take it in this article. But they're talking about how we can't. The title of the article is, and I've walked Eleanor. She was like, "Fuck this." She hates when I bring up new topics. The title of the article at Black Agenda Report, which, by the way, if you guys are looking for news sources, if you're looking for new outlets and you're like, where the fuck do I go? I can't go to all this corporate hack shit. Many of them we mentioned, Gray Zone, Mint Press, Popular Resistance. Another one is Black Agenda Report. They do great stuff. So the title of the article by Michelle Goodwin is "We Can't Be Free Until We
Thank
Fully,"
you, Shane.
Thank you, Shane, abolish slavery. And the article is talking about the fact that we still have slaves in the United States. Many people don't realize this. It's most of them are in our prison system. If you are a prisoner, then you can basically be a slave or work for pennies on the dollar. And many of the fires in California are being fought by this kind of slave labor. And this doesn't mean that the prisoner, people will show interviews with the prisoners where they say, I love it. I love getting outdoors. I love being a part of something important. It gives meaning to my life. That's not to say that people can't want to be out of prison when they're in prison, but it still is not acceptable. I don't care if you found an interview of someone saying they like doing it. It doesn't fucking matter. And they're working for like $1 an hour max. And they go out there and they fight fires. And honestly, California they're failing to fight the fires anyway because they're so aggressive, but they couldn't even begin to fight the fires without, they're like a third or a half of the firefighting force. Well, it's crazy.
At the beginning of the fires, they thought they were really in dire straits because of COVID running roughshod through the prison system in California. The prison system was like, we can't let y'all have these people because they're infected. And so it was one of these like amazing, like typical, like could only happen in the US kind of moments where it's like, but we need the prison labor. But because we treat our prisoners like they're fucking totally inhuman, they now have this they've got this virus that we totally could have stopped, and these forest fires that we totally could have stopped. But we need the prison labor to fight the fires that we could have stopped. But they've got the virus that we could have stopped. It was like, oh my God, it was the most American thing I'd seen.
We are a giant circle jerk, is what Ellen was trying to say.
A non-consensual one.
So she's talking about the 13th Amendment allowing for, and by the way, it used to be much worse in the sense that basically slavery was stopped, traditional chattel slavery was stopped, but the people in the South realized, well, if we just round up all the black people, accuse them of some crime that they largely didn't commit unless it was standing around, which they were prosecuted for, then we can own them equivalent to slaves. And actually, I read something recently that it was worse than slavery in the sense that the owners of these prisoners that would make them, would make them work their their feet and hands off, didn't care about their quote unquote property, because if one of them died or, literally couldn't work anymore, then they just go get another one from the prison system. Whereas when you owned a slave, you actually did not want them to die. So in a way, it was bizarrely worse. Literally, there were states in the South that would just round up black people, accuse them of some ridiculous crime, and put them into this system. And you could sell and trade these prisoners as laborers. It was disgusting. Anyway, we've gotten past some of that, but still, with the firefighters in California, and prisoners across this country are close to slave labor in a lot of ways. There was a thing came out that Victoria's Secret was using them, McDonald's was using them, I think maybe even Starbucks. But all these brands were basically using slave labor, where they pay them pennies to sew the McDonald's uniforms, or to sew the Made in America tag on the Victoria's Secret underwear. And so some of them have backed off. I think Victoria's Secret doesn't use it anymore, but it's still out there all over the place. Many call centers are in prisons. But to go a step beyond that, worldwide, it's estimated that it's very tough to get accurate numbers because it's so underground, but worldwide, there's estimated to be between 25 and 48 million people enslaved in the world. In a time when we act like slavery is gone. And much of it is, in certain countries where
Thank you, BD.
Thank you, BD. Wow, $50. That's incredible. Where they will say to someone who's from a poor village, will you, we'll pay for your dinner and your room and board and everything, just come work for us. And then they take them away to their place, and the person has nothing. They don't even know how to get back to their village. They're basically owned, and they don't realize it. And then they stop getting the money they were supposed to get, and they're kind of just stuck being a servant, but it's a slave. And anyway, and then of course there's sex trafficking. We saw that with Epstein, although a lot of his sex trafficking was, offering people amount of money for it, and then, not basically letting them out, even if that group was paying them. And by the way, the guy who owned the Victoria's Secret, Lex Wagner, I think that's his name was right, was also like perhaps even the head of the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking situation. So Victoria's Secret factors into all this shit, is all I'm saying.
Don't buy from Victoria's Secret. Just don't. But do check out Black Agenda Report. They have great articles, great reporting, for sure.
This person's saying it's Les Wexner, so sorry if I got that slightly wrong.
Oh.
I think I said Wagner. Okay, so we have a few minutes left here. If we get $30 in the next 5 minutes, then we will keep going for an extra 10. We'd love to do that, to donate that to the Steven Donziger Defense Fund. For those of you just joining us, who joined in the last few minutes, Steven Donziger, incredible environmental lawyer who has been fighting this. He's been fighting this case since the 90s. He started in the 90s. He had to meet with the indigenous, set up the case. Then, of course, it went through the Ecuadorian court system. Finally, he wins billions of dollars for these people as their lives are being destroyed. And you can see photos of them. They couldn't believe that a white person, much less an American, was defending them. Like these indigenous people who are like, wait, you're helping us? We've only not ever been exploited by white people and Americans. And anyway,
thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos. And anyway, he won a huge settlement.
Thank you, Michael.
None of it has ever been paid by Chevron. Oh, actually, there's this amazing quote by the CEO of Chevron about 5 years ago. I think the $30, I think, you already got us there, I think. It's an incredible quote by the head of Chevron. And I don't know if he's still the head, but at the time he was 5 years ago. And he said, it'll be something like, I think he said a cold day in hell. It'll be a cold day in hell before we pay any of the billions we owe the Ecuadorian indigenous people.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
And this is not like an unusual. I think it's Shell that is guilty of basically ruining huge swaths of Nigeria, thanks to their
Shell.
oil.
But Shell also, what you said, is executed.
Yeah.
This is one of those famous things. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
well, just executed environmental activists, like literally had them hanged in was it Nigeria? Had them hanged in Nigeria, and it was like Shell was behind it. Shell was a part of that. It wasn't like, oh, whoops, the mercenaries we hired did this. It was like they made it happen.
Yeah. So this is not, and it, not to say like that not to diminish from the Chevron point, but like this is what oil companies do, and of course it's predominantly in in these areas in South America, like what they call the global South, in Africa and South America.
Well, that's just our piggy bank.
Right. And this just supports that concept that colonialism never ended, right? It just put on a suit and tie, and now it comes with bulldozers and pipelines. And so it's the scramble for Africa never really ended, right? You have AFRICOM, and then on top of AFRICOM, which is a military, it's a military action in Africa. On top of that, you have the corporations that are absolutely pillaging in Africa. And the same thing holds true for South America. You had the Monroe Doctrine, which basically said to the world, look, this is our fucking backyard. This is Uncle Sam's backyard. We are going to basically just take whatever we want from South America and ensure that any sort of move to progress away from American hegemony will be violently beaten back. And you see that happening right now in Bolivia. You see that happening in Venezuela, where we continuously try to fight any try to fight both in terms of economic warfare, but also in terms of actual warfare, keep trying to push that forward to end the revolution that Chavez brought in, that Maduro tries to continue. So this is a common theme that we see. But I also want to make the point, and this is something that I believe we talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. $10.
And this is something that we've talked about, if not here, then on Common Censored, that imperialism is also a home game. That imperialism does come home to the United States, and that happens, as Sahela is putting here, indigenous peoples are oftentimes on the front lines of this in the so-called sacrifice zone, and the same thing holds true in so-called Canada, that they're uplifting here, and the what's going on with the Mi'kmaq in Canada that are getting terrorized by local fishermen. There's also been violence that has been meted out against the Mi'kmaq. Their I believe it was like their stores, or not their stores, but where they have their fishing gear, where they keep their lobsters, was set on fire by basically white supremacists that were that are trying to really combat the indigenous rights to this area. So this is a continuous thing that keeps happening around the world. But again, imperialism does come home in terms of the United States. Thank you, MC.
Damn straight.
Do you want to answer this question?
Which one's that? Well, first of all, I oppose the term cats. Okay, we are not cats, Daddy-O.
Hey, I like the term cat.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
My days of working in a recording studio, I loved when people would call people cat. Like, oh, he's a studio cat. I'm like, I want to be a studio cat because I like cats.
That's because you want to be a cat in all ways. So here's the thing: is I very much respect Noam Chomsky in a lot of ways. I think he does incredibly important stuff, and I wouldn't tell people to stop reading him in general. I think if you should read Manufacturing Consent, and he's done so much important work and continues to do important work. Now, he has a view of the lesser of two evils, which I think it's summed up, and I'm pretty sure there's a quote by him saying, well, it's okay to vote for the lesser of two evils because you're voting for less evil. Yeah, but you're also still voting for evil. So I think that I think he's wrong to think you're creating much change, but I don't think that people should be like wiped away from like kind of the intellectual discourse because they said something you disagree with. So I don't like the people that are like, no, Chomsky should vote for Biden. Everything he ever did is dead to me. And it's like, I think he did a lot of important stuff, and also he's very old.
And I just want to make this point. Someone just corrected me and said that it's Niger Delta, not just Nigeria. The Niger Delta includes Nigeria, but it also includes other countries. So thank you for that correction.
So then, and this may make me look stupid. So then the other country is called Niger, but it's the Niger Delta?
Yes.
Wow. Fascinating.
I think, right?
Fascinating. I don't know.
I know I've heard other people say Niger Delta. So
I'll go wherever you go.
well, I'm not going there. Right. So he's also very old.
That just hit. That hit 5 minutes later.
Well, because I wanted to make sure that I got the correction in, so I was kind of half paying attention. But yeah, no, I think that when people, I think it was actually Bernie who said this, and I'm not a huge Bernie fan, but when Bernie said that I won't ever tell you who to vote for, and if I do, don't listen to me. And I really liked that quote.
That's really come back to haunt him.
Because I think there was that might have been like a moment where, like a lucid moment where he was like, oh shit, I know that I'm going to end up supporting Biden again. Yeah. But like, I think it's important to recognize that, like, when people that we respect in other ways tell us that, oh, you should vote for so-and-so and so-and-so, we have to look at their particular, like place and what their, so basically what I'm trying to say here is Noam Chomsky does a lot of rad work in terms of theory and talking about like the machinations of the system and things like that. But he's not like a frontline person. And I think he really, really underestimates the extreme danger of a Biden presidency while also understanding the danger of a Trump presidency. And this is a point that I've made recently, is that we shouldn't diminish the danger of a Trump presidency, but we have to also not diminish the danger of a Biden presidency. And for all of the people saying vote Biden, it's just that they're not recognizing how dangerous that can actually be. To the people on the front lines, to the people who are actually affected by policy changes, or in the case of Biden, the policy continuation. So I think that it's very important that we look at where these suggestions are coming from. And in the case of Chomsky, they're really not coming from a place of that would shift much, regardless of who is elected or elected.
Yeah. Well, and a good example, I was just saying about, like, you don't need to wipe away all of someone's work because you disagree with something they said. A good example would be, like, my view on universal basic income is that it's a Band-Aid for capitalism, but it's an important one, because if it were adopted in our government tomorrow, you'd have basically zero homelessness, zero extreme poverty. It would be amazing benefits for so many millions of people, but it would, in the long run, it kind of allows capitalism to exist, because there is a theory of people who are probably more extreme that say, well, if you wipe out homelessness, then there won't be enough upset people to get rid of capitalism. But I'm not really willing to throw the extreme poor under the bus in a hope that we will understand what's wrong with capitalism. Coming from a place of incredible privilege to not be living under a bridge, I'm not going to say, well, no, they need to suffer so that we can overturn capitalism. That's crapitalism. That's my that's my belief. So, but again, I understand, people come from both sides of that issue. People are furious about, some people are furious about basic income. Others think it's the fucking silver bullet. I believe it is a Band-Aid that is needed.
I don't think that there is a silver bullet. Otherwise, that shit would have been shot out of a cannon a long time ago. Even though I know you can't shoot a bullet out of a cannon. Well, I'm mixing my metaphors.
What kind of ex-military are you? Start the rumor. Eleanor is ex-military. Kidding. Kidding.
Yeah, no, I was wearing flowers in my hair at age like 14. So, no, but what was I going to say?
Thank you so much, Jonas.
What was I going to say? Can't remember.
Thank you, Amers. We got 2 minutes left.
I thank you for the donation and the question. I don't actually.
Chim Chu Ree just said they shoot bullets out of a cannon in Mario Brothers, and they do. They really.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they really do. I think there's like a cannon that has these bullets.
Oh my god! I just got that like fucking telepathically.
Yeah, amazing.
Anyway, I have not decided what my next film is going to be about, but I definitely, farming is something that I'm very, very interested in, particularly on a local level. I know several subsistence farmers around the East Coast, and yeah, this issue is something that's definitely, and urban farming too. So yeah, but please, if you have like ideas about topics or anything like that, not just for film, but just something that we might be able to cover on our shows, please do reach out to us. You can reach me at artkillingapathy.com, Lee's over at leecamp.com. You can also email us at commoncensored@protonmail.com.
Yeah, and this is close to a live stream version of Common Censored, our podcast. So if you like this, you would love Common Censored. Please look it up. It's free on all your podcast networks.
Yes, and for those who haven't seen my film, you can check that out at hardroadofhope.com. I know a few of you caught me on Jimmy Dore, which is awesome. I was really happy to be on Jimmy Dore to talk about my film, and it's up at hardroadofhope.com, so do check that out.
Yeah, and on the same channel, by the way, do not leave without hitting subscribe. Please hit subscribe. I am suppressed. This channel's suppressed, but we spent 6-7 years. We've spent 7 years building up the Redacted Night YouTube channel. It is now so aggressively suppressed that literally we're lucky to get a few thousand views on a video, despite having 230,000 followers or subscribers. They're showing it to no one. So I've started a new channel. Yes, this one could ultimately get suppressed, but so far it doesn't seem as suppressed. So please click subscribe. I know many of you subscribe to Redacted Tonight, but this is a new channel, and please click subscribe.
Answer that real quick.
Well, yeah, we'll answer this one last question. MC Gazzetti. So, no, I'm not doing another stand-up special soon because of the pandemic. I feel the live audience is incredibly important, but also, beyond just the fact that I very much appreciate the live audience, Redacted Tonight and the live streams I do, some of them are not that different than my stand-up. So it just depends. Sometimes I'm in a more serious mood, so I do something that's not comedy at all. But Redacted Tonight is always... the first half, at least, because that's all me, is very much not that different from my stand-up. I mean, in slight ways, but very similar. So if you want my stand-up with no audience because of the pandemic, then that's the first half of Redacted Tonight. And you can get it for free at portable.tv and at youtube.com/redactedtonight. If you want my stand-up with an live audience, like the stand-up special, then that's not going to happen again until we have live audiences, I think.
Yeah, and we look forward to those days.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
But thank you so much, everyone. If you are watching this after the fact, we have raised money tonight for...
Oh, yeah. Let me give the, let's see if I have it right here, the link. Yes. So if you're watching this after the fact, go to Donziger, DONZIGER, defense.com, and you can click donate. So Donziger, defense.com, and you can click donate, and you can donate to his legal defense fund. And even if you aren't here part of the chat, you can do that later. So thanks a lot, and keep fighting.
Act out.